Don't look now, but Dabo Swinney continues to give us indicators that it's going to be a new Clemson outfit here going forward. The Tigers going to hire former Penn State defensive coordinator Tom Allen. Now, not Tim Allen from Santa Claus, though it feels like a holiday if you're out there in Clemson, South Carolina today. Tom Allen of a team that DC of a defense that was, 3 points away from having a chance to go play for a national championship. What does this mean for Clemson in terms of this hire? And I want us to take a step backwards and look at the big picture for Clemson in terms of how Dabo's operating. And again, what I just said kind of feels like a new Clemson. Kind of has that feeling. Make sure you're subscribed if you're a Clemson fan. Glad to have y'all a part of this, man. Have had a lot of y'all get dialed in the past and be subscribed to this show, The Hard Count, on this channel, the On3 YouTube channel. Glad to have you. Again, college football, nothing but college football all year round. So let's zoom in. What I think you can expect here from a Tom Allen defense is exactly what you saw at Penn State. Now, Penn State, they had some freaking dudes, right? Like Abdul Carter's a one of one. Denida Sutton, another one of one kind of cat. But I think the temperature you saw from them schematically will be a copy and paste approach. Like they were aggressive as all get out. Top 15 when it comes to sack rate in all of America. Top 10 when it came to yards per carry allowed. That's going to be who they are. I wholeheartedly believe. We'll see how long it takes to totally get that in place. But with the personnel that Clemson seems to have defensively, I think there's a pretty good chance for you to have that translate a little bit more quickly than maybe you would for a previous DC. Now, Wes Goodwin, the DC your past season here at Clemson, didn't have like a totally just horrific season. Like, was it great? Not necessarily. Was it all bad, though? I don't think so either. They allowed 24 points a game. Situationally, you had some bad showings, like the game against SMU. Even though you won, to have SMU climb back in the game the way they did, the Louisville game, like there's a lot of things you point to and say, it's not going to cut it. And that's sort of what this says to me. Like, those Clemson national championship teams, yeah, of course, talk about Deshaun Watson, talk about Trevor Lawrence, but in that same breath, I think in a lot of people's minds, you mentioned those defenses that Brent Venables was coaching, those defensive lines that were stacked with NFL talent, just as much as you mentioned the quarterback play. Like, that was kind of the calling card, I think, those Power Rangers with what Clemson was when they were reeling off college football playoff appearances and when they won their 2 national championships. So there's 2 things, though, that I love about what this hire says for Clemson going forward. The first is we recognize what our standard is here at Clemson. Internally, we understand that. Because in the last couple of seasons, when Clemson was falling short of the 4-team playoff, it felt a little bit to me, like I got the vibe that there was this feeling of, well, hey, this is good for us at Clemson because of what Clemson used to be. Like Clemson used to be a team where, hey, man, that's awesome. You win 8 games. You win 9 games, phenomenal. That's a great season out here. But then you reel off, multiple national championships, and you reel off, 6 college football playoff appearances in a row. And you're like, yeah, that does kind of change our expectation here at Clemson. We do sort of start to expect a little more national prominence. If you don't make the playoff, it's an issue. We're not in the national title picture. We have a problem with that. And there kind of felt like this pushback at different moments for Dabo Swinney, whether it's right or wrong, of like, well, hey, again, when we got here, it wasn't this way. So therefore, you should be happy that we're playing as well as we are right now. And Dabo Swinney's not wrong for saying that. But again, if I'm a fan of Clemson and us here in the college football public watching this, we're like, yeah, it used to be a certain way, but you made it a way where now we get to expect great things from Clemson. Like the pressure, that in itself is a privilege. Overused phrase, but I think that was 100% true for Clemson. So Dabo Swinney, coming off a season where your defense, again, wasn't egregious. There's games where it looked egregious. It wasn't egregious overall, though, as a product, to say, nope, not good enough. We got to level up. Let's get a defensive coordinator from a team that was a game away from playing for a national championship. A coordinator who's going to be aggressive and just top 15, top 10 in a lot of the categories that are, like, quite frankly, aggression categories, if you will, toughness categories. That's up in the ante and understanding we have to achieve to a certain level here at Clemson because now we've upped the standard, and that's phenomenal. So that's the first point. The second point is this, plus the portal moves, I think, for Clemson, continues to tell us by their actions that Clemson is evolving. Right? There's a willingness here to change. And this is kind of what always made Clemson a little bit scary, I think, for the rest of college football. Because the knock, I don't think for anybody, has ever been on Dabo Swinney as a game day coach or Dabo Swinney with how he builds a culture and things like that. The knock was always their unwillingness to change, their unwillingness to get with the times, being stagnant. And we said this for a long time when it comes to what Clemson is and how Clemson operates. when Clemson was reeling off college football playoff appearances and national title appearances and national championships in general, the conversation was always like, hey, nobody's saying anything about how Clemson does a different style of recruiting with how they offer kids. And when the portal became more prominent, no one was really getting all that frustrated with it because Clemson was having success, at least in the early part of what the portal was. But then as they start to miss out on the playoff and have a little bit of a step back in success, people started to grumble. College football sickos, make sure you are subscribed right here to the On3 YouTube channel. On this show, The Hard Count, it's college football, nothing but college football all year round. Now, this show is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Daily fantasy, easy to use, easy to play, easy to withdraw what you win. Follow us here. Use code HARDCOUNT at prizepicks.com. We're going to do our very best to make us all some money. Now, even if we don't, when you play with code HARDCOUNT at prizepicks.com, make yourself $50 in promo funds to then go ball out the rest of this playoff. So again, code HARDCOUNT, $5 in lineups, gets you $50 in promo funds at prizepicks.com. We appreciate y'all subscribing. We appreciate y'all using that code with our friends PrizePicks. My comp has always been, going back to my point here, Clemson is Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A gives you the best product, for my money at least, in the fast food market. Full stop. They're closed on Sundays. They do things differently. Nobody has an issue with it. Why? Because that chicken sandwich, when you order it and you get it in your hands, you take a bite, it's creme de la creme. It is national title caliber. Clemson, over the course of the last few years, has started to have a little bit of a drop-off in the quality of product that we expect. So now this is Dabo Swinney essentially saying in Chick-fil-A terms, hey, we're going to open on Sundays just for lunch. Just for lunch. We're not opening all day. We're not doing breakfast and dinner, but we're going to open just for lunch. Why? Because that's what's required here for us to evolve, adapt, and to achieve the standard that we want to achieve here. And that's always the thing, man. It was never, can they take 20 guys from the portal and just reinvent their roster every offseason? No. It was always a thing of, hey, can they just be situational? Can they hire outside their staff, which Dabo Swinney has done before when he hired Garrett Riley from TCU to be his OC, goes outside his staff again and goes and gets the DC from Penn State now in Tom Allen instead of making an internal promotion. Kind of tweaking a little bit of what they've historically done, and I love it because it shows the willingness to, again, evolve, adapt, and understand the standard there is national championships. Like ACC championships, of course, we want to get those. Those are one of the main items on the checklist, but like that's not good enough. We expect to compete for national championships. And so hiring outside your staff, like you are again here with Tom Allen, and taking, again, it's not 20 transfers, just 3 transfers as we're sitting here on the air right now. They have a class in the portal based for our rankings here at On3 ahead of teams like Texas, Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, all teams that you would expect in some way, shape, or form to factor into that college football playoff picture / national championship picture, right? Like that matters to some extent. And so when we talk about Clemson and the culture that you want to protect, like that was, I think, something that it feels like it's just lip service to say that you want to protect your culture, and I think Dabo Swinney does. And quite frankly, I appreciate it and love that. But the pushback for me was always like, well, if the culture is so strong, you should be able to add a couple of pieces in and have that culture change what you add in, not the other way around. You don't have to be super concerned about protecting your culture with having 2 or 3 pieces come into your fold because you know that culture is going to ultimately get the best out of them, and that's going to be the change agent, not the other way around. And so the willingness to do that, again, based on the staff, based on the portal additions, there is, I think, some real horsepower here to that Roy bus they got sitting out there in Clemson. Clemson still has some weight they're throwing around here. All right, like going and making a move like this, you pair that with the move where they landed Garrett Riley from a national championship runner-up a couple years ago from TCU. How many other teams in the ACC are making this move? How many teams outside of the state of Florida in the ACC are making this move? SMU maybe? I mean, Duke seems to be willing to throw their weight around a little bit. My point being, Clemson's still a big dog. Clemson still has some real juice behind that logo, still some real juice internally. And to see them flex a little bit, to see them make a move like this, I'd be very excited if I'm a fan of Clemson, if I'm in that building in terms of what they're doing right now as an operation, because this shows the willingness to evolve, to change. And if they're going to change and play ball even just a little bit to how things are working right now in the college football landscape with how they hire, how they build their roster, Clemson's going to be a force now. And we'll talk about what they're going to be here in the future as we progress throughout this part of the year where they're not playing games. but I would be very excited. So, again, Clemson fans, let me know what you think about this hire. We've told you our thoughts. Get at me on the socials, Instagram and on Twitter at JD PicKell. Most importantly, though, make sure you are subscribed right here. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling, and we will see y'all next time.